As Oh Hanwoo opens his eyes, he finds himself lying on the ground while his slaves are being taken. Moments ago, Oh Hanwoo was commanding his team to defeat werewolves, and they managed to do so, following his commands. However, it wasn't enough to defeat the werewolf as it stood up and was about to attack them. Then, Oh Hanwoo uses fire magic to defeat the werewolf, while admiring the blessing magic he received from Princess Athena. His classmate Park Han-young, whom he met at the slave market, appears with his slave and praises Oh Hanwoo. Realizing the guy's intention to bully him as he did to other students in the past, Oh Hanwoo prepares himself to fight. As the fight begins, Park Han-young's slave rushes towards them and easily defeats Oh Hanwoo's slave. He then tells Oh Hanwoo to hand over his slaves. Meanwhile, Hansu was looking for information on any powerful weapons. Then Kogmos informed him that all the weapons like that had already been confiscated, and those that weren't confiscated are being guarded by the nation's guard. Upon hearing this, Hansu went outside for some fresh air. He was devastated because he couldn't level up, and there were no weapons that could make him strong. While the god cheered him up, an orc called out to him from behind, demanding that he hand over everything he had. Pissed off with his current situation, Hansu attacked the orc and kept on punching him while asking why there weren't any relics. The orc, crying, begged him to stop and informed him that there are relics in the orc sanctuary. With this sudden turn of events, Hansu told the orc to show him the way. In the Western continent, they ranked things using monsters. High-level knights were ranked as dragons, while the lowest of the low were slime-ranked. Since the orc was in the middle, it meant they were good enough, so it would be easy for him to defeat them. As the orc showed the way, he informed Hansu that even if he showed the way, Hansu wouldn't be able to enter the sanctuary. And when they arrived at the destination, they saw that nothing was there. Then suddenly, a ruined city appeared. The orc was happy, thinking Hansu wasn't able to follow him. But when he turned around, he sees Hansu. Surprised, the orc asked how he could be there since only people below level 1 could enter. Hansu showed the orc his level, and suddenly some orcs shot arrows at him. While the gray-haired orc was about to warn everyone about Hansu's strength, he was easily slain by Hansu, who then rushed towards the other orcs, massacring them, while the god prays for their souls. After slaying thousands of orcs, Hansu uses the slime he bought to take care of the collection while he checks his stats. He discovers that his curse, Massacre, has become rank C, and he receives a new curse called Annihilation D. This curse increases the chances of the people who dies by his hand appearing in his dreams, and the nightmare will continue until all the dead people attain nirvana. However, it doesn't affect him as he doesn't sleep due to his blessing, Outsider. Additionally, he receives the curse for saving those who were held captive by the orcs. Hansu then asks the surviving orc how to leave this place, since he keeps returning to the same spot, no matter how much he tries to leave. The orc informs him that the exit of the city is in the center. As he was going there, a guardian orc arrives and demands that Hansu answer why he massacred 300,000 orcs. The guardian points his spear at Hansu, stating that he will not let a single person who knows about this place live. Hearing this, Hansu becomes sure that there is treasure, and that is what the guardian is trying to protect. He rushes to attack him, and as their weapons collide, Hansu is pushed back and loses an arm and an eye. But he quickly regenerates using his outsider blessing, much to the orc's surprise. The orc thinks that Hansu is an immortal and plans to lock him up until he gets old and dies. Meanwhile, Yubora receives congratulations from Arya on reaching level 7, which she says is all because of her blessing. Arya also shows her blessing Nobility, which means she's a daughter of Duke and can receive XP from family members. However, it's useless as she doesn't have any family members. While they're conversing, the Saintess arrive, which makes Arya a little uncomfortable. She then goes to bring tea, and while drinking, the Saintess tells Yubora about her concerns regarding hero rivalries. She mentions that sooner or later, some heroes might be dominated by their blessings, but they won't die because even if they fall, a hero is still a hero. However, their fall will result in the betrayal of the trust of all who believe in heroes. Upon hearing this, Yubora remembers Hansu and wonders if he is doing well. The Saintess abruptly asks if she knows someone named Kang Hansu and if he is her boyfriend. Shocked, Yubora clarifies that he isn't her boyfriend but merely a classmate. The Saintess urges her to tell everything while the gods eavesdrop. Later, the Saintess becomes convinced that Yubora is interested in Hansu, as she spends hours talking about him. She also learns about Hansu's desire to go back to Earth, and she's worried that if the heroes find out that Hansu actually didn't go back, their trust will be destroyed. Planning to erase Hansu's existence, she is interrupted by the goddess of heroes, who glances at Hansu's bag and feels uncomfortable, indicating that even she can't locate his whereabouts. Saintus then plans to launch a search network without everyone knowing, while the outsider god peeps at the plan and quietly leaves. Meanwhile, Hansu kept on losing to the guardian orc, so he decided to construct a plan and draw the orc's every movement to study and counterattack. While doing so, he was interrupted by Bruce, whom he had saved earlier. Bruce brought a girl with him, and although Hansu couldn't understand their language, he understood Bruce's intention of trying to set him up with a girl. This angered Hansu, so he gave Bruce a beating. He then tells the girl to do whatever she wanted but not to disturb him while he continued drawing. Later in the morning, he showed the outsider god that he had copied the orc's swordsmanship, which bewildered the god. He then received a system notification stating that the outsider blessing rank had upgraded from F to E. While he was thanking the outsider god, another system notification popped up stating that the curse hero had also upgraded from E to C. This meant that the goddess had noticed that Hansu was still alive, but he decided to ignore it for now and prepared to fight the guardian orc. However, the guardian orc refused to fight him outside and told him to follow him to the training area, which meant that he couldn't leave the sanctuary. As the fight begins, Hansu asks if there is any treasure. The orc responds that there is, but it's reserved for the heroes who graduate from the training ground. Understanding that he can't defeat the goddess with the weapons he finds here, he starts to think of a way. While he's distracted, the orc rushes to attack him, but Hansu easily deflects the strike with the new swordsmanship he learned. This surprises the orc, and he notices that Hansu is trying to get close to the exit. Thinking that Hansu is planning to run away, he rushes towards him to attack. However, Hansu had planned for this scenario and kicks the orc out of the sanctuary. He then starts to look for the treasure with the outsider god guiding him, and he finally finds it, among which are many holy swords. He picks one of them, but the outsider god warns him that he can't wield the sword, as it can only be wielded by heroes, and he has a hero's curse that makes him unable to wield the sword. So he breaks it, as it's only fair that other heroes can't use it either. While breaking the remaining swords, he notices that one of the swords isn't affected by his curse. So he breaks all the holy swords using the unaffected sword to see if it's defective, which it isn't. While celebrating his new sword, he receives a new curse called Holy Sword, E. At the same time, Choi completed his hunting for the day and checked his stats. He received numerous blessings and planned to use them in the upcoming tournament to win and obtain the prized Holy Sword. On the other hand, Mion didn't want to fight as she had dreamt of being surrounded by handsome knights. But in reality, she found herself surrounded by average-looking guys. She informed them about the temple's plan to send 4 highly skilled heroes to the academy and expressed her desire to attend it with them. One guy pointed out that there would be bloodshed within the faction, but he was still willing to join. However, the other guy refused, stating that Mion planned to go out with a prince riding a white horse. Mion assured them that she wouldn't break her promise and said she would grant their wishes if she were to do so. All of them agreed to join her. Meanwhile, Hansu checks the new curse Holy Sword, which made all the holy swords around him stronger by using the Maker's blood and tears. It would be difficult for him to destroy or seal the Holy Sword. Seeing this, Hansu felt confused, as it was the only holy sword left, and the curse only applied to it, which makes it stronger. Later, as he was leaving, the guardian orc appeared. The orc looked older due to leaving the sanctuary. Realizing the orc's weakness, Hansu tried to block its way. However, the orc rushed to attack him, but Hansu easily deflected the blow and cut its arm using the new sword. The orc managed to enter the sanctuary and quickly regenerated and attacked again, but Hansu easily beheaded it. However, it wasn't enough as the orc kept regenerating. So Hansu plans to take its head outside of the sanctuary. But before he could do that, the orc begs him to spare his life, and in return he'll do anything Hansu asks. Even help him escape this place using the holy sword. Although he can't wield it himself since only heroes can, Hansu then takes out the holy sword, which shocks the orc and confirms his suspicions about Hansu being a hero. The orc shows Hansu his stats, in which he also has the hero's curse and ruin curse that make him unable to leave the ruin. He explains that inside the ruin he is immortal because he is the last strong opponent to test the new heroes, and despite being so strong he lost. He then asks Hansu why he isn't leaving, to which he replies that he'll leave under the condition that he'll let the captives go with him, to which the orc agrees. Hansu then informs everyone that they can go home, but for some reason, only 3 of them decide to go. As the portal opens, Hansu is a little skeptical as the situation feels familiar, but the god assures him that it's safe. Before leaving, he asks the orc how he'll return to the sanctuary, which he replies that they can communicate using the holy sword, so Hansu can command him to open the portal whenever he wants. Upon entering the portal, he finds himself in a woman's room with a holy sword on the wall. He complains to the god, who assures him that it's still safe, but it will be dangerous soon. Then he notices his bag under the table. Meanwhile, the saintess arrived at the place where Celeblus was imprisoned and asked the villagers if it was true and if they knew how important Celeblus was. She was known as the Guardian of Flame, and despite her weakness in battle, she had the ability to summon incredibly strong monsters, particularly the Phoenix. The villager kneels and apologizes while begging her to spare him, which she accepts as Celeblus herself forgave them. She then asks about the appearance and name of the person who saved the fairy. The villager replies that the man had short black hair like the heroes, but they don't know his name. Upon hearing this, she is certain that it's Hansu, but also confused about how he managed to fight, as even if he has many blessings, it would be impossible for him to defeat a werewolf, just like the other students. She wonders which god gave him blessing, as all the gods were with them in the temple. And now that she's certain that the bag belongs to Hansu, she plans to get rid of it, while a certain arrogant god nervously peeks and is displeased. Later, the students arrive in the village where Hansu had been, and Princess Athena tells them not to disturb the villagers, as they had already been through an incident. While the students are fooling around, Choi notices something in the distance and warns everyone that there might be a werewolf. However, it turns out to be Oh Han-woo who appears injured and filthy. Choi mocks him, and in response, Oh Han-woo challenges him to a duel, to which he agrees, but just as they are about to start, Arya intervenes, pointing out that Oh Han-woo is badly injured, and the duel wouldn't be fair. Choi then calls for the Saintess, who heals Oh Han-woo, and the duel continues. Although he knows that Choi is stronger than him, he is confident in defeating him. A few days ago, after Park Han-young took his slave, he received a new blessing, revenge, that makes him as strong as his target of revenge. The more people who seek revenge on him, the stronger he becomes. While he wants revenge on Park Han-young, he decides not to act on it yet, as he needs a strong target to become even stronger. He chooses Choi as his opponent, since he is the strongest among the students. As the duel begins, Oh Han-woo barely manages to block Choi's sword and uses fire magic to counterattack, which Choi easily dodges. Angered, Oh Han-woo hurls fireballs at Choi, but they have no effect. Just as he is about to deliver the final blow, Oh Han-woo's blessing special activates, causing a massive explosion that results in a tie in the duel. Meanwhile, Hansu finally arrived at the inn where he was staying and met Kogmos, which surprised him as he didn't run away. Kogmos replied that he wanted to leave but he couldn't, because Prince Alsus, the 3rd strongest knight, was present in the kingdom and wanted to meet Hansu. Kogmos also warned him not to mention anything about him, as Alsus was a paladin blessed by the saints and would easily identify Kogmos as a demon. Upon hearing about the saints, Hansu decided to avoid the meeting, stating that he wouldn't go because he couldn't understand their language. Suddenly, Julia and Leisha arrived, who would take him to Prince Alsus and help with communication. Leisha noticed that Hansu had received a new curse, to which he replied that he got it while hunting. Kogmos planned to leave Hansu as staying together for too long would result in him dying without getting married. However, Hansu didn't want to let him go as he needed someone to translate for him. Kogmos then advised him to buy a slave who could translate. Later, after getting dressed up elegantly, which he didn't like, Hansu arrived at the palace to meet Prince Alsus. As Prince Alsus introduced himself, Hansu was able to understand him, to which the prince replied that it was all thanks to his blessing, language. He then thanked Hansu for subjugating the orcs, who were a major problem for the country, and saving the noble's daughter's life, which Hansu accepted. Curious about Hansu's blessing that annihilated the orcs, Prince Alsus requested a duel. But before that, they had dinner, and during the dinner, Alsus praises Hansu for his blessing that allows him to eat as much as he wants, which makes the outsider god happy. Alsus inquires about how Hansu got the hero's curse, to which he lies, saying that he gained the curse by beating up a hero who was attacking fairies. He then asks if Hansu remembers the hero's face, to which he lies again, saying that he punched the hero's face so hard that it was unrecognizable. Alsus then reveals the reason he invited Hansu was to investigate, as all the orcs that were in the forest disappeared like magic, almost as if they've gone extinct. Hansu then say that it might be because he hunted too many orcs, to which Alsus replies by emitting an aura and saying that he wanted to subjugate the orcs by himself. However, it didn't affect Hansu, and he replies dumbfoundedly. Fascinated by him, Alsus decides to start the duel. Hansu pulls out the fairy dagger, which shocks Alsus. Then he quickly hides it and shows his swordsmanship aura, which shocks Alsus, as Hansu was able to use such a dangerous aura, while he had to injure his hand many times to achieve a lesser version of it. He then gives Hansu a sword and lets him make the first attack, to which Hansu agrees. He heard that Alsus is the third strongest knight in the kingdom, so he used a good amount of force to attack him, causing a huge explosion and a cloud of dust floating everywhere. Thinking that he attacked too hard and that Alsus might be dead, Hansu quickly runs away. But Alsus didn't die, as he used up all of his mana to block Hansu's attack, and is shocked that his sword was easily sliced. He then asked the girls to help him meet Hansu again, and apologize, as he had almost made him feel guilty for his death. The girls accepted and rushed to the inn where Hansu was staying. Meanwhile, the saints arrived at the temple, and noticed that Hansu's bag had been stolen while everything else was fine. Then the goddess appeared, speechless with the current situation, and said she should have gotten rid of the bag beforehand. The goddess asked the saintess about her next move, and if there was any way to find the bag. Pissed off with the continuous nagging, she told the goddess to find the bag herself. Upon hearing this, the goddess left. She then received a message from Prince Alsus, who informed her of the current situation regarding the extinction of the orcs. After interrogating the orcs with the language blessing, they learned that it had been done by a demon, though it had not been confirmed yet. He also informed her about a hero who had attacked a fairy, and both of them thought that it was Oh Hanwoo. Meanwhile, Hansu, who believed that he had murdered Prince Alsus and feared being executed, planned to leave the country. He opened a portal to the sanctuary, and before leaving he told Kogmos to meet him at the city's northern gate. Upon entering the sanctuary through the portal, he met Bruce, who had decided to stay in the sanctuary. Hansu then asked Bruce to help him move stuff, and told the orc not to do anything to the citizens, since they would be helping him. The orc agreed because if he didn't, he would die. Hansu then met up with Kogmos and explained the situation to him. Kogmos advised him that they should head north, where the biggest slave market on the continent was located, and they could buy slaves. However, because Hansu had taken all his things, he wasn't able to buy even a horse to travel. So Hansu decided to carry Kogmos and run, which he didn't like because it was embarrassing. During their journey, Kogmos was starving, so Hansu used his sword to command the orc and opened a portal that provided them with food. After they finished eating, he threw the plates into the portal again, which shocked Kogmos since he had never seen that type of magic before. Hansu replied that it was only him who didn't know about it. Later, they arrived in the city, and Kogmos told Hansu that he wouldn't run away, so he demanded his stuff back, which he refused, and instead commanded the sword to give him his bag. Realizing that Hansu hadn't learned magic, but was using the sword to summon the portal, Kogmos decided to take a closer look at the sword. As he held the sword to examine it for any spatial spells, he received an electric shock and realized that it was a holy sword that couldn't be wielded by a demon. Upon arriving at the market, Hansu noticed a slave girl being abused by her master. Kogmos then informed him that it was all an act to manipulate weak-minded people into buying slaves, and he commented that the girl's skin was too good for someone being mistreated. They approached the merchant and inquired about any slaves with the blessing of language. The woman replied affirmatively and told them to follow her. Hansu asked if the slave would run away, to which Kogmos informed him that they wouldn't, as they had a curse that hurts them every time they go against their master's command. The woman then led them to a female slave named Dialoka, who happened to be a demon. Kogmos instantly developed a crush on her, which prompted teasing from Hansu and the outsider god. He decided to buy her, but he didn't have any money. Hansu asked Dialoka how she became a slave, to which she revealed that she had once loved someone, but he doubted her feelings. In order to prove her love, she consented to become his slave, only to be abandoned by him. The outsider god expressed boredom with the story, while Kogmos was moved to tears. seeing that the girl was disgusted. Hansu ultimately purchased Dialoka and checked her stats, discovering that she possessed numerous high-ranking blessings. He then proceeded to buy several more slaves and command them to transport his belongings. However, Kogmos had a change of heart and decided to accompany Hansu. Just as he made this decision, he was shot in the head with an arrow. Another arrow was aimed at Hansu, but he easily deflected it. After beating the attackers, he learned that they were thieves who had heard rumors of a level 1 human buying slaves, so they decided to steal from him. The guards arrived, and a crowd started to gather, so Hansu decided to escape to the forest with Kogmos. Despite being struck in the head, Kogmos quickly healed due to the demon's high healing abilities. As Dialoka insulted him for his weakness, Hansu turned around to check his shirt and was attacked from behind by Dialoka. However, he easily blocked her attack and destroyed her arm. She then backed away and asked Hansu if he was truly a level 1, to which he confirmed and rushed towards her to counterattack. Although he injured her, it was nothing severe for a demon. She then landed a critical hit, and thinking she had won, she demanded that Hansu declare her freedom in return for healing him. However, Hansu declined and healed instantly, which shocked Dialoka. She then healed her hand, and they resumed their fight. But this time her healing ability couldn't keep up with her wounds, and she kept getting beaten one-sidedly. She then took out her wings and put all her power into her leg, launching a powerful attack at Hansu. While Hansu prepared to block it, he caught a glimpse of her panties, causing him to lose focus, and the attack struck his head, knocking him unconscious. When he regained consciousness, the outsider god scolded him for losing focus and told him to cleanse his mind. Dialoka called out to him and requested clothes, as hers had been torn during the fight. Although he refused at first, he eventually agreed and took out clothes from the portal and gave them to her. She was angry, realizing that Hansu had purposely lost the fight, but she acknowledged him as her master, despite her shame as a demon. While Kogmos warned Hansu not to command her anything weird, or he would never forgive him, Dialoka pointed out that he wasn't even strong enough to beat Hansu, so what if he wouldn't forgive him? She then hugged Hansu as a reward, and since she had used up all of her mana, she couldn't move, so she asked him to carry her. Meanwhile, in the temple, the Saintess is troubled by the fact that they can't use monsters to train the heroes, since the werewolves and orcs have gone extinct. She decides to let Alsus handle the matter, while she invites Celebliss to find the intruder who stole the bag. And after hearing about the werewolves incident, Celebliss wonders if Hansu is doing well. She then informs the Saintess that she would use the slime named Malang's help to find the intruder, as it has special abilities. When she commands Malang to find the intruder, it says that the intruder had used a similar holy sword hanging on the wall to open a portal and ran away. The Saintess quickly figures out that it was Hansu. She thanks Celebliss and asks if she needs any help, to which she replies that she needs the Saintess' help to join the academy as a professor. Due to her weakness in battle, she couldn't help during the last incident, and even after trying hunting, she realizes that it doesn't suit her. If she joins the academy as a professor and obtains the blessing teacher, she would be able to gain experience points without participating in battles. Understanding her situation, the Saintess promises to help her. Meanwhile, Oh Han-woo is happy that he was able to end the duel in a draw despite the gap in his and Choi's levels. He plans to beat him next time while a certain evil god gives him a double thumbs up. Then, the merchant brings the weapons that Oh Han-woo had requested. He then asks if there is any dungeon nearby that no one has conquered yet. The guy replies that there isn't. He then notices a large crowd, and after getting into it, he sees Celebliss, and instantly develops a crush. He approaches her and uses his special blessing and asks her if she has something to say to him. She replies that she doesn't, and his blessing is instantly nullified. He becomes confused as to why his blessing didn't work. Then, a certain male god informs him that there is another owner. So he asks Celebliss if she is married. Upon hearing this, she remembers Hansu again, and tells him to back away and leaves. He then overhears the knights talking about a hero's being admitted to the academy, and that Celebliss will be a professor at the same academy. Upon hearing this, Oh Han-woo falls into his delusion of developing a relationship with Celebliss in the academy as a teacher and student. So he decides to go back to the temple and become heroes again to get admitted to the academy. Later that night in the temple, Prince Alsus explains to the students about the upcoming tournament in which they have to hunt orcs and collect tags that are attached to their ankles. To prepare for the tournament, they had released a great number of orcs in the forest, which is marked on the map. However, many students are scared, as they have never hunted orcs before. Prince Alsus reassures them that it doesn't matter what method they use to win, as the one who brings the most tags will be the winner and receive the grand prize, a one-of-a-kind hero's sword. Choi is determined to win the tournament to wash away the humiliation he received from Oh Han-woo. While Choi is thinking about this, Oh Han-woo appears and declares that he will return to being a hero since his skill level is high enough to participate in the tournament. Although Prince Alsus approves of his participation after hearing that he is now equal to Choi, he is suspicious of his personality, as the description of the hero Hansu mentioned is similar to Oh Han-woo. So he asks him if he remembers any incident involving a fairy, which Oh Han-woo mistakes as the time he approached Celebliss using his blessing. He tries to explain to Alsus that it was a misunderstanding and he just wanted to help her. This makes Alsus certain that the hero Hansu mentioned is Oh Han-woo. He then tells him to return the money he received upon giving up the hero's title. Oh Han-woo lies and claims that he used up all of the money in his training. To verify this, Alsus challenges him to a spar, to which he arrogantly agrees, and as the fight begins, he uses his fire magic to attack Alsus, but is easily defeated. Alsus then asks the students to raise their hands if they want to participate in the tournament. He also informs them that the students won't receive any protection during the tournament. Some students raise their hands, and then the Saintess tell everyone who doesn't want to participate to pack their bags and leave, as the temple is planning to sponsor only the hero with courage and determination for the selection. Upon hearing this, many students raise their hands in protest, but they are all kicked out, leaving only the high-ranking students. The Saintess informed the remaining students that they have passed the first round and start the second round.